Hello, I'm the Groundhog 83 and welcome to episode 2 of Civilization 3, How to Produce a Mod. Alright, and I realized that I didn't necessarily start out with some of the basic information in the last episode. So, for some of the people that haven't actually played this game before, I'll have to show you how to get there. And we'll go to computer, drive C, program files, and I actually purchased Civilization 3 through Steam for $5. Only $5 to get this game, and you could probably buy Civilization 3 at the computer gaming store for about $10 with the CD included in everything. This download from Steam for $5 is cheaper, and basically you get the most up-to-date version. And so what I produce here is going to be the most up-to-date final version of Civilization 3 called Civilization 3 Complete. Anyway, once you access the Civilization 3 folder, you'll see on here it's through Steam and then Sid Meier's Civilization 3 Complete. If you purchase the game with the CD, it'll probably be under program files and then something very similar to this, Sid Meier's Civilization 3. And it might be Civilization 3 Conquest if you get the latest version. There's also two other versions in addition to the vanilla version, which is the original version, which is basically which would be right here if you purchase the vanilla version. There's also two expansions called Play the World, and the other one is Conquest. And if you have Play the World, you'll access your editor through the Play the World folder there, and Conquest, the editors, through the Conquest folder here. Alright, the vanilla version also includes a modification editor, and that's called a BIC file, or a BIC file, and you'd click on this right here. Alright, and this will open up the vanilla version editor for the game. Alright, there's also Play the World. They expanded upon the editor a little bit, and that version is called the Civ3X edit. You'll notice right here through the Play the World folder. And we open that up, and it comes up with the title screen, Play the World, and there's that editor. Alright, the one we're going to use is the Conquests editor, accessed through the Conquest folder, and then you get Civ3 Conquest Edit and Conquest. And essentially that is how you get into the editor to begin with. Alright, the actual, once you get into the editor, you can save whatever you produce by clicking, and if you can add different things like pine forest, etc. But once you get in there, you can save it as a scenario file, and the extension on the Conquest is BIQ as opposed to the vanilla version BIC, and I think the Play the World version is BIK. And anyway, once you get in here, it'll go save as, and it'll save it in the Conquest folder. That's not actually where you want to save your scenario that you create, however. You want to go into Scenarios, and then you under the Conquest folder, and then you want to save it here. And we're going to call this, we just put some pine forests in there, we're going to call it Pine Forests. Right? And there we go. And you exit it, and then you actually have to get into the game itself, and mine's accessed through Steam. So we're going to access it right now, and we'll actually see the, or we should see the actual game come up here in a bit. Alright, there we go. And it looks like there's a problem here, so there we go. Fixed it. and that's the intro movie, and we'll skip that by pressing enter, and then we get actually into the main screen. And access the scenario you just created, you click on Civ content, and you move in, and you scroll down, and our pine forest is right here. Alright, so pine forest. And it'll give you a preview here, and you'll notice there are my pine forests on a 100 by 100 map. And we'll start. And this isn't going to be a very good game if we were to actually play this. Choose any nation that we got there, such as England. And you'll notice that because the terrain's so small, that everyone else is kind of screwed as far as cities here. So this isn't a very good scenario. And you'll notice that only 3 civs remain. Alright, but anyway, we just created a scenario based on Civilization 3. Not a very good one. You'll see there's 3 civs, and basically that's that. I can show you something with this, however. The other civilizations start out with units that you don't. So you'll see that they already have warriors here. You can see them, and I don't. And that's because that's because it's a built-in mechanism whereby the other civilizations, the AI, start out with units that you don't. So I'll probably be destroyed here. I'm kind of curious. And no, I haven't been. They actually fortified their units, so I'm a little lucky. So we'll quit the game here, and then we'll go back to where I left off in the last episode. Exit that, and where were we at? Alright, so now we got that down. Now I got to show you where to access. So you saved it in scenarios. Alright, and you can access the scenarios you saved through the scenarios folder and bring them back up again in the editor. And that's what I just did. And there's 2 that I showed you last time. Europe 1936 Massive right here, and the other one, Europe 1936 180 by 180. So we'll open that there. And there we go. Now, in the last episode, I left off where I was explaining why I chose this massive map, which is like a 300 by 240 in the first place. And we got to the Ural Mountains, and then I said, and I started to explain why the Ural Mountains were included. That's because Europe goes that far. Also, I chose this map initially because it shows all the major things of Russia. Moscow would be right here. Leningrad, which I think is placed right there. And then Stalingrad would be somewhere in here. And Stalingrad was probably the 3rd major city of Soviet Russia that was involved in the European theater. I would describe the 3 big ones as Leningrad, Moscow, and Stalingrad. And of course, Stalingrad was the big battle where the Germans lost and they got pushed back, and it marks the extent of the German advance into Soviet Russia in 1942. Actually 42, 43 anyway. And so that was included as well. And you'll notice that the Middle East is also in here. If the Germans and Italians were to drive through the Suez Canal, which they actually did not do historically, they did threaten it. They got as far as El Alamein. But if they were to capture this, they would have, and they went past the Sinai Peninsula here, they would have some strategic decisions to make. Right? Drive up into Palestine and get rid of, and Syria, and get rid of the British and French. Would probably have been the next logical step. But Iraq is located over here, and Iraq would have added an extra dimension because the Germans actually did incite a revolt, so to speak, against the British. Iraq was technically independent, but they were really a British puppet during the war, and the British did fight the Iraqis, believe it or not. Very quick, small-scale action, but it did occur. And if we were to include Iraq in the scenario, this would add an extra dimension. And additionally, you drive up through Palestine, they could attack Turkey, or they could drive through the Caucasus Mountains right here and then attack Soviet Russia from another angle. So I felt this was initially was a perfect map. But as I explained before, there's just too much terrain, too much ground in a 300 by 240, and I decided that this wouldn't work. So I eventually decided on a 180 by 180 map. And I had to make some compromises here. It includes the United States. It goes a little further west to the Mississippi River than I would like, but it does include the United States. It does include the African theater. It does allow you to drive up through here to a degree, but you can't go through the Caucasus, and it doesn't go as far deep into Soviet Russia as I would like, and it cuts off the northern part of Scandinavia. Right? But it's really what I found to be the best map covering the ground that I wanted to cover. And I had to make some compromises. I decided that this Middle Eastern theater wasn't all that important, took the focus off Europe to a degree, so I said that was okay. And the fighting up here in northern Scandinavia was inconclusive. It would be kind of neat to see the Soviets or somebody drive down into Norway, and actually you could still do that. Right? Although technically they would have to, the way this is designed, they'd have to technically go through Sweden. But I can still work with this, and we're probably going to change what happened, or changed what is historically accurate a little bit for playability issues up in this area, but I can work with it, and I can work with this as well. So I decided this was the best map available, and that's what I chose.